Hello and welcome to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Miles. Today I want to talk about medicinal mushrooms, particularly mushroom coffee. Now, the first time I saw mushroom coffee, I was actually in a Chinese grocery store with my stepdad. I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I asked him, "What is this?" I thought it was interesting. I saw some instant coffee with a mushroom on the label, and it was kind of a ratty package. It wasn't well done as far as products go. And he said, there's nothing in it. Only old people believe that. It's a scam. And I was a little confused, but I put it away and just chalked it up to, bullshit products and left that alone. And then I started seeing in the last few years mushroom coffee as though it were just invented in Finland. That's amazing. But I remembered, hey, isn't that Chinese grocery store, Chinatown stuff that's kind of a scam for old people? So I looked into it. And the sourcing is the same. There are mushroom companies in China who make mushroom coffee. They've been doing that since the 80s. I think it's done in Japan as well. And the thing is, it's not to say that the quality of mushrooms is particularly bad. It's just that at the micro dosage that they're offering, you're getting little to nothing at all. So is that a problem? Well, not necessarily. It's not causing any harm. But if you are looking at research on the medicinal effects of chaga or lion's mane or some of these high-powered mushrooms, and you are making that logical jump, thinking, I'm going to get this effect by having mushroom coffee, it's important not to delude yourself, because to get the kind of results that the research is talking about and making a decoction of mushrooms and then combining that with legit coffee, it's going to cost about $10 to $20 per serving, period. It's going to range based on the type of mushrooms that you're using, but there's no way around it. If you're getting something that is reflecting the research and all of that, it's going to be time consuming. I make it, I enjoy it myself. It takes over an hour to make. I'm not there the whole time. It's boiling, I check back on it, but it isn't something that's going to be instant. That's just the reality of it. There aren't instant extractions of mushrooms that have been done that completely or to that degree as you see with Chinese herbs, for instance. So even the extractions where they say it's instant, it's not really. So just keep that in mind. Whatever extraction method you're using, you have oil extractions and water extractions, and they're the triterpenes and polysaccharides and beta-glucans. You want to get all of the good stuff out of them, but you really are going to have a hard time getting everything out at the same time. So I'm not trying to pick on one particular company, but you have to be honest. You have to say, look, if this is a water extraction that we're using, you're mainly going to be getting the beta-glucans, as you might from button mushrooms, as you might from barley in Japanese tea. And if good enough, everyone's happy with that, then great. I just personally find it a little bit disingenuous when people are kind of hinting at all of the mushroom research and then adding a sprinkle of a microdose to instant coffee, suggesting that these are the same thing. They're not. If you go to boutiques in China, you can see as part of the gift economy, legit reishi mushrooms will be very expensive. You see legit cordyceps going from $50,000 to $75,000 a kilo. For one piece, you're looking at $20 to $40. That's the reality of it. If you want to get more of the lipids, oftentimes, or the lipid solubles, oftentimes an alcohol extraction is best. I really enjoyed having cordyceps that I would put in rice wine, baijiu, and I would let that sit for about a month before having about a shot every night. And even though there were only a few cordyceps at the bottom, it was actually extracting. If you were to take cheap cordyceps and throw them in cheap coffee, this is not the same. It's not the same thing at all. It's not the same thing that Chinese history, East Asian history is talking about. It's not the same thing that the research is pointing to. So we just need to be clear on that. Now, having said that, having been grumpy about everything in the world, I'm going to say what is a good way I find to get a happy medium. Keeping in mind you're never going to be able to extract everything and do it perfectly at home. But what I like to do is I get some reishi or chaga and I boil it up for a couple of hours. I find the extraction method is greatly improved by adding botanicals, which have high degrees of volatile oils. When you're cooking the volatile oils together, I should say herbs which are high in volatile oils, they may be able to help with the extraction process of those lipid solubles from the mushroom. So the more of these aldehydes like cinnamaldehyde that you're getting from cinnamon, the more of these that are in the mix, the greater the range of extraction that can be possible. As it's boiling, the mushrooms float, the oils float as well, so you're getting a little more variability when it comes to that extraction. So what I like to do is if I have a day of decision making, lots of mental work, really the kind of work where it's like I've got to be at my best, do my best today, and I need to have a high degree of mental and physical endurance in order to do it. What I'll do is I'll start boiling up the mushrooms. If I want to mix it with some coffee, sure, I'll do that, but I make the coffee separately, and I use high quality coffee. I prefer direct trade because I find it to be really ethical compared to, say, an organic title, which can be bought and oftentimes is, anyway, there's a lot of corruption that goes around that, but with direct trade, there are fewer steps, and as a result, you tend to get a little better quality. And anyway, that's just something that I've looked into and have found that to be the most bang for the buck and the most ethical way of going about it. So I'll make legit coffee, and then I make legit mushrooms that have been boiling for an hour or so, and I combine them together, and that's fun. Over time, what I found is just a personal preference, is I really like to combine it with a legit masala from southern India, like Sri Lanka chai. Chai has a number of herbs in it. It's a great digestive mix in and of itself, and the volatile oils from that are going to combine with some of the other herbs that I'll use from like Lingui Zhugan. I'll use formulas like that, which have long been used to combine fungi and botanicals together in order to help extract the best out of both. So I don't need to reinvent the wheel if I have 2,000 years of precedence ahead of me. So what I do is I just copy off of what's worked historically, make something delicious that is good for the gut. So thank you, ancient China. Thank you, Indian culture as well. I'm definitely going to respectfully pay attention to what you guys have been up to for the last couple thousand years, if not longer, and yeah, see how that works. So I'm really loving chai. Sometimes I do mix it up with coffee if I just need a little bit more go juice in the morning, especially if I haven't slept that well the night before. And I find this mix to be really delightful. It has a cumulative effect, but it's not something I'm going to be using forever. I will stay on something like this for about 3 months maximum. And the reason for this is because every herb, every mushroom, yes, it has benefits, but we want to be smarter than the people who go, plant good, mushroom good. This is a little bit vacuous. The reality is, in nature, mushrooms help with communication. They help with the communication and health of the entire forest. They do that inside the body as well. They help with neurogenesis. They help with gut-brain axis function. All of that is true. And just as in nature, mushrooms have their share of toxicity, medicinal mushrooms do as well. So we want to get out of the mindset where we're just looking at something as an intrinsic good or something that's intrinsically bad, and look at it with a little bit of nuance. So just understand, if you're having a bunch of medicinal mushrooms, you're also getting some small, slight doses of toxicity as well. Not the end of the world, but just something you might want to rotate off of after about 3 months. Give it a couple weeks of a break. And this is true for everything that was once living. All plants have a degree of poison, all of them, and that's okay. We want to be mindful of that, use certain substances to counter other poisons. That's why I use herbs and fungi, which have been traditionally combined together. They tend to enhance bioavailability while reducing side effects and toxicity. Another important consideration is that all of these mushrooms, I'm speaking incredibly generally at this point, they do different things in the body and they have different effects systemically. So you have something like turkey tail and it's going to help get rid of damp, increase bowel movements. You have another substance like reishi or chaga and it's going to have a more of a nourishing effect. And this is really important because any substance we're taking is going to influence the temperature, the moisture, and pressure of various microbiomes within the human body. If you have a substance which increases pressure, traditionally said to tonify or nourish, it's increasing not only the pressure within those cavities in the body, but it will, by doing so, allow pressure-loving microorganisms to thrive. And what do? Once they're thriving, they increase pressure. So you see some people who are incredibly bloated. They get high blood pressure as a result. The pressure systems are too high. And as a result of that, they're harboring life inside them. The microbiome inside of them is pressure loving. The gases are going to be built up. They're going to be high. So we want to be cognizant of that. We want to be cognizant of temperature, moisture, and pressure because that's ultimately what we're cultivating. Now, generally speaking, mushrooms are fairly forgiving in this way, especially if you have a mixture of a lot of them together. They tend to not go too far in one direction or the other. And that's another reason why I combine them with botanicals as well. Again, to have a little bit more of a moderating effect, so I'm not going too far in one direction or the other. When it comes to extraction, I really like to get mushroom mixes that are a 1-to-1 extract. So they may have had some steaming, which they consider a water extraction. It's not truly a water extraction, but whatever. The important thing is that the whole mushroom is there. If you get a water extraction where they've taken out everything that's water soluble and then tossed away the rest, they've essentially thrown away some of the best parts of that mushroom. So it's often good to maintain that mushroom in case you want to take it and maybe you don't want to do a water extraction and boil it for a couple of hours. Maybe you want to put it in alcohol for a while. You can do that. You extract it with alcohol. You can burn off some of that alcohol as you boil it. You can do a double extraction if you want. It really depends on what you're after. Because again, one extraction method isn't going to get everything. And when you do the water extraction, you may damage slightly some of those oil solubles and vice versa. So there's always going to be some opportunity cost. Look, don't worry about it too much. The main thing is legit mushrooms, they're going to be expensive. They just are. Microdosing is a way to cheat that. It's a way to con people who aren't that aware of dosage. It also protects the companies from liability because if the dosage is too small to be effective, it's really hard to get sued for hurting people because the dosage was too small, right? It's a common scam in the natural health industry, especially vitamin industry. So just beware of that. So when I get a mushroom mix, if I get some reishi that's been, reishi powder, whatever the company says to do, I don't really pay too much attention to that. I look at traditional dosing, oftentimes 9 to 12 grams. I'll put that into a pot and extract it, or for an alcohol extraction, if that's what I'm looking to do. And I just need to understand that per extraction, I'm looking at anywhere from $10 to $20. That's just what it's going to be. If that's worth it, if that's efficient, then I go ahead. But the last thing I'm going to do is, not do something legit in a way to feel like I'm saving money when realistically, once you're below that minimal effective dosage, you're really wasting money. So you're not saving money by cheating yourself. You're actually wasting it in the long run. So yeah, I use these mushrooms. I'll mix it with coffee sometimes. And an important meditation I do after I take something like this is, as I'm drinking it, I try to learn from the substance itself. Because mushrooms teach your body. And they do it through a couple of different ways, but one of the main ways is your body senses that you've just ingested a mushroom and it goes, oh shit, I'm going to die. Oh my God, you ate a mushroom? In our ancestral past, a lot of mushrooms were not a good idea. Body senses it's bitter. It senses, oh God, there's chitin in this. We're going to die. Jesus. So it causes an immune reaction to protect the gut and to protect the brain, and sometimes to protect the liver and kidneys. So when you see these liver protective effects or anti-cancerous effects, that's one of the mechanisms that is happening. What's happening is it's triggering the immune system to go, hey, pay attention to this. And you can say that triggers healing the body, but I want to be specific. It's triggering healing by way of the immune system, by way of triggering gasotransmitters, and through this process, it's helping to garden the gut and the gut-brain axis. And this is also why we don't necessarily want to use these every day for the rest of our life, any more than you would want to jump in a cold lake every day or lift weights, in a very extreme way every day, because you want to give your body a little bit of a break. Mushrooms are teaching you, they're exercising you. So meditating a little bit, checking in with yourself as you're taking them, and learning what it's teaching you, because that's a process of organization for the immune system, for the brain, for the gut. So give it a try. Let me know what you find. If you have a preferred Chinese medicine formula or Ayurvedic formula, if you have botanicals that you like to combine, drop me an email. Let me know what you're up to at andrew@botanicalbiohacking.com. If you enjoy a particular product, let me know. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe my biases about dosage have been off. Maybe you had an extremely wonderful effect at a microdose. I am happy to learn. I've been down a rabbit hole. I'm really enjoying this area. I have to admit my bias on this is from a traditional perspective. I'm learning more as more mushroom research comes out. So please, as much as I'm sharing with you, I would love to hear from you as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Botanical Biohacking Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Miles. After this, I'm going to stretch a little bit, especially my piriformis. I think I'll thank myself tomorrow if I do that today. You want to stretch with me? We can crank out a set right now before the next thing you're going to do. You're probably listening to this while you're, in a car or washing dishes. Hopefully you're multitasking a little bit. And it's a good time for a stretch break. All right, let's begin.